to strap in and get ready.
The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Mattrix, and Whisperer.
Yes, g'day guys. Welcome back. It is the Insight NRL Show. It's the Halfback episode. Pick Nathan Cleary and Nico Hynes. Thanks for watching. No, I'm kidding. I'm the SC Brain, joined by SC Mattrix and SC Whisperer. How are you, boys? Mattrix, we joke, don't we, about halfback being a very simple position, but it kind of is, isn't it?
I'm not laughing. Yeah, no, it is. I'm bringing a little bit of spice to it. But yeah, look, there's probably three really clear options with that. I don't think this is a year where we're going to be, flirting with the ideas of your Sam Walkers like last year. We're not going to be chatting about Tanner Boyd or any random cheapies, really.
Yeah, there's one. I wouldn't call him a random cheapie. He's the third most owned. But yeah, we'll have a chat about four players tonight, I think, in depth, and then maybe we'll try and find some way to talk about someone else to drag the episode out to 20 minutes. But as always, the show, guys, is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze, Ryan from Hammond's Home Finance, and Bonus Bank. Hit subscribe, like, follow, review, do all those things, and also join the Unlimited League. I'm going to skip through these very quickly. It's 777-141. Don't muck around. Get in, win a ring, do all those things. And boys, and Josh, first of all, is there any merit to actually going with anything other than two guns? What's your thoughts on halfback?
There's four options I'm looking at, and that's it really. Like out of the halfback pool, like last year, Sean Johnson was 450k. This time last year, so that would have been nice to have this time around. But there's four guys I'm looking at. And there's three positions I want double guns, or at least, premiums, which is fullback, halfback, and then maybe center wing, just with how much upside they have. So unless massive value presents itself, I'm not really looking at mid-ranges. It's sort of just either cheapish or double gun for me. It's going to be, we've gone from a massive podcast last ep to the opposite. It's going to be very, very brief today.
Yeah. Speaking of brief, we may as well move into the most owned. Josh, you want to kick us off? The two obvious ones to get started.
Absolutely. Surprising to me that Nathan Cleary is the most owned at 41.9%. I would have thought Hynes with, just the draw and him having a PCL and not playing in England 8 days beforehand, but he is second at 34%. Aidan Sezer at, what's that? My eyes are deceiving me, 13%. Mitch Moses at 8.9%, and then you've just got a handful of others: Luke Brooks, Chanel Harris-Tavita, Braden Trindle, Matty Burton, our preseason hero from last year, Sean Johnson, and Tyrant Wishart. Shout out to Brett.
You just got to add Bronson Garlic in there, and it'd be Brent's team from last year, I reckon. What a
but yeah, what are you thinking, boys? Like, there's a 7% disparity between Cleary and Hynes. Like, they're the two standouts because you see that with Sezer being the third most owned at nearly, Hynes is 3 times more owned than Sezer. It shows you, and we'll go back and have a look at this, but, to have it so top heavy, it's top heavy, but it's also under owned, I feel. I posted this on Twitter the other day. The fact that Cleary or Hynes are not at least 50% owned is, really shocking.
Yeah. Matty, would you, what are these people doing with, like, let's just say, for instance, you got 75% of people have the two of them, but then you've got 60% of people that don't have Cleary, 70% that don't have Hynes. But then you look at the 3rd to 10th owned, and it's all really spread. So, like, it must be people just having a crack at a bench half, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
I look at some of these other names there, and I'm not seeing tremendous cash generation either. Like, if there was a 500k guy that had the upside of being maybe a 700k guy, I could be tempted on my bench. If there was a 200k guy that I think could get to 500k, then I could be a bit more tempted. But I think Nico Hynes is absolute must-have. I think you can make a case of fading Cleary for a few weeks. Just a few weeks.
Yeah, we're definitely not saying Cleary is a guy to fade for the season. But yeah, Josh made a couple of good points about the World Club Challenge 8 days before the season starts, probably limited preseason, the knee injury that he played in the grand final with that now results in him not having a PCL at all. Like, obviously from a, that's an NRL physio question more so. But yeah, it's a tricky one. So we'll do our best to try and. I mean, actually, it's not tricky at all. We'll do our best to try and give you a case as to why you can't pick Nathan Cleary. Maybe that's the conversation we probably need to have today. But look, I think it's fair to say, Josh, that Nicho Hynes should be close to 100% owned.
Yeah, I think so. It's also worth noting. I had a quick look from the positions that we've covered already. There are 4 players at hooker that are over 10% owned. There are 8 players over 10% owned in front row forward. There are 14 players over 10% owned at 2RF, and then your halfback there's 3. And I think the top 2 are still under owned at over 30% each. So Nicho Hynes, I assume the big dilemma with him is the fact that he relinquished goal kicking last year at times. He now has a more ball dominant half in someone like a Braden Trindle. But even still having Trindle in his side, he still performed very well. I think he averaged something like 92 at the back end of the season. Had one game where against Penrith, everyone's going to score poorly against Penrith. He had a 22. But with Trindle in the side, he had 86, 100, 55, 108, 127 to round out the season. And that was without goal kicking at parts of that as well. So the draw is immaculate compared to what we're getting for someone like Cleary. We're getting the Warriors, Bulldogs, Tigers, and Raiders, and then a bye, which coincides nicely because I think they're 4 pretty capable matchups. And then you don't have a dilemma with Cleary because he's pretty much him and your other 2 half fullbacks are your only captaincy options in round 5. But I just think with that draw, the fact that we're pretty much uninterrupted up until round 16, apart from the early bye, I don't know if he's going to play Origin. It seems like if he was going to do it for a longer period of time, it would have happened by now. New coach is always a little bit concerning, but with these major buy rounds, boys, and this is something that's worth noting as well, we don't need a halfback because the way the scoring changes now is it's just your best 13. So it's not like your best players on the park. You don't need a halfback. You can play a halfback down and still hold these guys injury free for the entire season.
Yeah, very good point. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in these previews, Matty, looking at the first 12 rounds, right, leading up to Origin. But we do need to think of these guys like Nicho and Cleary and Paynehaas and Pappenhausen and Turbo and all of these guns in our teams. We're probably going to try and hold them all year.
Yeah, and there's a case for Nicho Hynes that even when he drops cash, you just keep him. I think Trindle only affects him in fantasy. And I know this is a Supercoach podcast, and I hate to be bringing up, draft and fantasy and that sort of stuff all the time. But where kick meters is a thing, Trindle might pick and play a little bit more and take that away from Nicho. But that doesn't affect Supercoach. Honestly, Nico's still got Nicho outside him. There's not a world where I won't start without Nicho. Cleary, that's another question.
First of all, I completely agree. As long as Nicho's touching the ball 20 out, I don't give a shit what Trindle's doing. That doesn't bother me as long as Nicho's the guy 20 out from the try line. So before we touch on Cleary, because look, you've mentioned a few compelling arguments so far as to why we could potentially look at someone else or fade him. But before we do, we've got a pretty cool thing coming up that I've got to give Josh props on this one for coming up with this because it's I don't think it's been done. So we're going to launch it very soon, and I'm sure everyone watching has considered themselves a good supercoacher. But the question now becomes, are you the best supercoacher? We're not just talking NRL. We're talking all 4 Supercoach sports. Now, for the first time ever, we're going to find out who the best in the world is at Supercoach with the Insight Supercoach World Cup. So NRL, AFL, BBL, and NBL, all 4 Supercoach sports over the next 12 months. Your rank is going to be counted as a percentage of the total players across all 4 sports. It's only going to be $10 to enter as well. Next to nothing, really. Just throw your hat in the ring and have a crack. We get 1,000 people in there. That's 10 grand as a prize pool. So there's plenty of money to be won. If my maths is correct, we're going to pay out the top 10 players They're going to be paid out at the end of the NBL season next year, 24-25. So basically, you've got a crack to show that you're the best super coacher in Australia or in the world, basically, if you can dominate all 4 sports. And Josh, this was a little bit of a kind of project of yours.
Yeah, I've always thought about it. Like, I'm no BBL expert, I'm no NBL expert, but at least gives a little bit of spice to what, put something on the line, have the bragging rights to be the best at Supercoach, not just NRL, not just, your chosen sport. Pretty much, yeah, really, really excited to have this running. The way that scoring works is, let's say there's 100,000 people that play NRL Supercoach and you come 10th, you'd be 0.001%. If you came 20th out of 200,000, you're 0.001%, and you just multiply, you just addition those together until you get all 4 of the sports put together. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. Test yourself against people. I like to think of it as like an Olympic decathlon. You're going to have your strength, you're going to have your weaknesses, and it's about working out where they're at. But yeah, it's something I've been thinking about for a little bit and probably didn't have the time nor effort to do it myself. So glad that I can unload my ideas onto you guys and let you guys run with them. So really keen. AFL starting in less than a month, NRL starting in less than a month, and then it gives you plenty of time to prepare for BBL and the NBL as well at the end of the season.
I think it's AFL that's gonna fuck me over on that one.
Yeah.
I legit don't know anyone. I listened to Mick and the boys last year a little bit and tried to make changes off them, but it was just so hard to keep up with. There's just so many players. I don't know any of their names outside of the Brisbane Lions, the mighty Brisbane Lions. Always been a massive fan. Yeah.
Don't you just pick a bloke named Darcy? There's 300 of them. So
yeah, the blokes with the mullet. With the sandy blonde mullet.
Yeah. The beauty of it is we do podcasts for all 4 sports, and we like to say that we do pretty well across all 4. So if you need a hand with any of those, you can. There's some great creators out there as well, aside from us, that do some awesome content. So look, there's plenty of support out there, but give it a crack. Imagine being able to say you're the best in the world at Supercoach. That's pretty cool. So I haven't seen anything like this before.
I reckon we organize a trophy and we get some engraving done onto it. And 100%. Yeah, to have it in your Twitter bio, to have it in your Instagram bio that you are the best Supercoach player in the world, that would be a big flex. I definitely put that on my Tinder profile.
100%. Hop in the Discord if you want to know more, or just hit us up on DMs individually or at Inside F Sports, wherever you follow us, and we'll chat.
And that's not limited to Inside Unlimited members either. That's open to whoever wants to be a part of it. So it's a free-for-all, basically.
And also, we love Supercoach, and at the end of the day, you want more people playing it, more people enjoying it, more people watching podcasts, engaging in content. So it's a win for everyone, basically. Is Nathan Cleary a win for everyone, Josh? Because you've said a couple of things so far in the pod that maybe you could fade him potentially, but it's
underpriced.
It's risky business.
He's underpriced if you want to look at it. So he had that hamstring injury, only played 17 minutes. Apart from that, played over 80 minutes in every game. You take out that hamstring game and he averaged 92.5. So it's not a huge amount of value, but it's still 3.5 points. And that sort of goes into this point with Cleary and Hynes. Are we saying, we talk about all these other guys, about how much value they possess and how much money they're going to make you. These guys are not making you cash. You're buying them at value. You're probably going to lose money on them. But if you lose 80K over the course of a season, I'd much rather lose 80K and have 2 set and forget guys all season long. If you were going to fade one of them, I would fade Cleary. Considering the 8-day turnaround from the Rugby League World Club Challenge, it's not a great draw to start the season. It's a long stopover flight, just 8 days before. Had the PCL removed, which I'm not a physio, but I pay NRL physio a lot of money each year. I also listen to a lot of his content. It's not a huge thing for him at this age. GI played without PCL. It hindered him later on in his career, but still so early. Clearly will be fine. It's a narrative thing. Do you think Luai gets more ball now he's done? Do you think he gets less ball now that he's done? What happens? He gets Talon May back on the left-hand side. Now, Talon May is not Stephen Crichton, but he's also still a very good strike weapon. Sorensen and Martin both solidify themselves as pretty much long-term edges for these guys. It just feels like they're churning out middles left, right, and center. Lindsay Smith really stepped up last year and really took him on a 40-minute role. You're going to have someone like Henry come in and fill that void that Lenyu's left. They're just churning out talent nothing is stopping Cleary from continuing to do what he does. Penrith have been dominant for 3 years. It's a tall ask to have them win 4 in a row, but they're going to go very fucking close.
100%. What are your thoughts, Matty? Because you've got a interesting looking team at the moment that might not have this Panther.
Yeah, I don't have a Cleary. Like, I have a look at the 8-day turnaround. I have a look at the price. I have a look at Melbourne, Para, Broncos, Sydney, Manly, bye. And then it really open up with like the West Tigers and the Cowboys. I want some cash generation. I had a look at the matchups, and I'm probably going to be captaining somebody other than Cleary every other week with the strike weapons that I've spent a lot of money at fullback, with Nico Hynes, a lot of those others. So I'm not looking at Cleary double points. Any of these matchups, it's a risk. I think it's a worthy risk for me. Could it bite me in the ass, and could I be 25,000th come round 6 because I don't have Cleary? Could I be moving heaven and earth 2 minutes before the season because Appy Coruscant's a kicker now? That could absolutely be the case. I've actually made plans to get Nathan Cleary if I need to. But at this stage, I'm running Nico Hynes, no Nathan Cleary. And it's the draw. It's the short turnaround. It's the injuries. It's maybe a little bit of a syndrome. Maybe they don't need to win the first couple games. Maybe he'll just ramp up. Maybe they're still working things out with Luai. And I know he's played with Luai for a long time. But, there's going to be some feelings there. Teammates are going to be looking at Luai a little bit differently now that he's committed to leave. I think it's a really weird situation. But yeah, look, I think the Panthers will be a contender this year. I will own Nathan Cleary at some time, but right now I don't. And come round 1, I don't think I will.
Let me ask you this. Will either of you captain Cleary or Hynes in round 1, considering the Sharks have the Warriors away and the Panthers have Melbourne Storm at Amy Park? Would you look at captain?
The way that my team is structured right now, Hynes is captained and Ponga is vice captained. So I think you can rule out Cleary for captains in the first 5 rounds. And I understand what Mattrix is saying. While he was talking, I literally just ran numbers on my second screen. Cleary in his first 5 games against the same opponents, taking his average scores against all of them, averages 73.8 against those 5 teams. If you sort of have a look at them all together, it would be a 16-point drop-off, 15-point drop-off. And I understand that. My big dilemma is Cleary's going to get 75 at worst. The next man we talk about is probably the only other option that I look at. You have to have a lot fucking go right for his way to get to 80. And then you're going to have to find 200K. Because like when you look at the Tigers at home in round 6, like that's when you need him.
100%.
You will have to move round 7. You'll have to move heaven and earth to get him in 6 weeks, because if you don't own him, it's a very nervous watch.
Yeah, absolutely. This screams Nico Hynes round 4, 2023, where we have the decision after the bye to go, can we hold off? Maybe his break even ends up being 160 or whatever, and we're like, maybe we'll wait another week, and he comes out and gets 170. Yeah, 100%. There's every chance that he just comes out and destroys them. So I have both at the moment. I just feel like it's one less headache for my team. I know there's a lot of cash. There's 2 mil basically, or 1.9 mil locked up in my halves, but for good reason. These guys are the 2 best halves and probably 2 best Supercoach players in the competition.
I know it's a tall ask, but he played Melbourne once last year and scored 104. They played them in round 1. Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen because Melbourne round 1 are just like the greatest team of all time. But he does have pedigree against, these top sides. Funnily enough, out of like those sides, he actually has the worst average against Parramatta. He's played 12 games for an average of 59. So actually has the worst average against Parramatta out of all those teams. And that drags that, overall average that we spoke about down. It's just, when I opened up the app, I don't care what I had to do. If I had to sacrifice a Harry Grant, if I had to sacrifice a Payne Haas, it was just Cleary and Hynes locked and loaded. And I think a big factor of that is the buys, boys. Like rounds 13, 16, 19, you don't need a halfback anymore. You don't need a full squad. You just need 13 names. Yep. So you're a very brave man to fade him. I can understand why. I do think he loses cash over the first 5 rounds. And I can't sit here and say Harry Grant's a bad buy because he's going to lose so much value to start with when I have the same opinions of Nathan Cleary. Like, I still think Cleary is overpriced based on his draw and based on factors that haven't been considered, such as being on the other side of the world, missing, having off-season knee surgery. Like, all these things aren't factored into the price, and I still think he's overpriced by maybe 10 points to start the season. But fuck, if he still puts up 80 points, are you really going to sit there and complain?
Not at all. We need to also think, everyone's talking about value to start the season when you're building your squad, and it makes sense to do that. But you've also got to think about points, right? Like, how much of a points hit are you going to take? How far behind are you going to be without running him to start?
Well, that's if your team value is 12 million, so if you start the season with a 12 million team value, no one fucking cares if you're ranked 80k with a team value of 15 million. Like, cool, well done. You've lost. You need to find that balance. And I just don't think halfback, apart from one man, I don't think halfback's the position to be trying to get too tricky and looking for value.
I agree. And also we look at centre wing, and there's a fair bit of value there. Like, there's a lot of cheapies, a lot of guys predominantly that you'd be happy to start at centre wing. We'll talk about them obviously in a later episode. But then we look back to the episode we just did with 2RF, and there's so many mid-range to cheap options in that 2RF that it can enable you to get Cleary and Hynes without really having to look at your team and go, oh, I fucking hate that. So, I think it. Brent's asked a question in the Discord, and he said, is there a way in which that you could go without Cleary or Hynes, or even without both? I think he's insane if you went out without both. Anyone's insane to go without both.
Crazy without both. I understand without Cleary. I can understand without Cleary. If you show me a team without both, fuck. It'd have to be a team with like Marzu, Osako, Karat. Like, you'd have to have top centre wings to make it even viable.
Tino and Payne Haas in the front row, then Cam Murray and David Fafita. Yeah.
You probably could afford all them, to be honest.
You could.
I was about to say.
It's nearly $2 million.
It'd have to be all that. That's the only way you can afford it.
It's nearly $2 million locked up just at halfback, so you'd be able to do a shit ton with it. But like, I wouldn't know if I don't know if I could. But the problem is, like, if you don't go without both, you're going with a Moses, who we'll touch on.
Yep.
But then at that stage, because like, it's not like if Sezer didn't have the buy in round 1, you could be like, all right, maybe there's a world where we start with Sezer as a halfback 1, but he has a buy in round 1, so you then have to rely on your bench halfback. And then if you're paying up for Moses, it's like, well, fuck, do I just find the extra 150k and get Cleary or Hynes?
Yeah.
I don't think you do.
Moses
I think you
is nearly too good for Supercoach. He needs to be 500k for me to consider over how good Nico and Cleary are.
Agreed.
Can I just have a look before we move on go? So I've got Sezer. I think I've alluded to that 100 times. My new draft team, and I'm not going to do a 45-second video where I touch my nipples and let you know that my team's named Caesar Salad. But my team's named Caesar Salad in draft. But look, I would have to go Payne Haas down to Ruben Cotter. I'd have to go Angus Crichton down to enough. I'd have to go Jaden Campbell down to KO Weeks to go Cleary instead of Sezer.
I feel like
do you boys think that's worth it?
No. The minute you said enough and we'll be at round 1, no.
Yeah. So when you said so do you need like a bottom dollar guy?
Yeah, bottom. I've already got Dylan Egan, so I will probably have a bottom dollar guy, but I'd need to go basically a 400k guy. I've got 5 of them. I'd have to go a 400k guy down to a 200k guy. I'd have to go Payne Haas down to Ruben Cotter, and I'd have to go Jaden Campbell down to
Weeks. Campbell to Weeks is fine.
Yeah, and I'm still like 50k short, so I'd have to go maybe. I'm dropping a lot of my team tonight. I'd have to go a hammer down to a 550k guy.
Mate, is this just a new team real podcast? Like, by the sounds of it.
Yeah. You're welcome. But like, that's all the moves.
Team building 101 podcast. That's what it is right now.
But that's all the downgrades I'd have to go to get Cleary into my team. And I'm not sure when you add all of that up, due to the fact that I'm not going to captain Cleary for 6 weeks, a Sezer to him is worth it.
You just need to. The danger for me now becomes, how do I find 600k to get him in? and that's the question you need to ask in round 6. You're going to be making a lot of sacrifices with the moves leading up to that bye, knowing that I need to either have massive bank or Sezer needs to have probably a better start than Nico Hynes to be able to have enough cash to then make it an easy stepping stone to get to Cleary. So that's the danger that you take with not starting with him, is you've got to find the cash to get him at round 6 or 7. Boys, before we jump in, we'll talk about Sezer and we'll talk about Moses in a little bit more depth. Before we do that, the show, of course, is brought to you, as always, by the Standard Squeeze, helping you drink responsibly and conveniently, measuring the perfect pour, keeping your beers cold, keeping your coffee hot. You can go to the standardsqueeze.com is the website. Use the code INSIGHT15 in the little promo section there to get yourself 15% off everything on there. Aidan Sezer. Now, Josh, when we talked to West Tigers and we did your initial team reveal podcast in episode 1 of the preseason, you had some pretty compelling stats for Aidan Sezer when it was centered around goal kicking. So, you want to share those again? Do you have them?
I think that's where his value presents itself. If we, see him in trial week 2, take the tee, he becomes a much more viable option. If he doesn't, then just put the red line through him. But for anyone that didn't want to go back and listen to some very, very early preseason dribble, Aidan Sezer is obviously no stranger to the NRL. He has been here before. He left in 2019, went over to the Super League. But I will read you his averages from 2012 up until 2019, and I'll just go year by year. So 40, 60, 48, 60, 35, 42, 35, 38. Now, that last chunk doesn't sound great. The 2 seasons that stand out were 2013 and 2015, where he averaged 60 points each. And they were the 2 seasons that he was the main goal kicker. Now, remember, he was at the Raiders behind Jared Croker, an absolute gun with the boot. When he was given the task of being the main goal kicker, he averaged 60 points in both games. Now, that was 10 years ago. The body is not what it used to be. We understand that. In saying that, he is priced at only a 30... I've got it written down here. He is priced at only a 33. 33.7. So even if he doesn't goal kick, he is at value. So when we add the goal kicking on it, it's going to get better. Now, I know what you're saying. The Tigers suck. Yep, cool, whatever. Now, the Tigers have never been worse in the last 3 years, from 2020, 2021, 2022. In saying that, they still scored 71 tries a season on average. Now, if you take Cezar's career goal kicking, looking through the Super League, looking through his NRL seasons, he averages about 84%. So if you look at how much a goal kick is worth, take away what a goal kick missed is worth, it adds about 9 points straight away, just in value. So if we're saying, I've got it written, I probably should have been more prepared. I thought we were doing Moses, so I was well out of this. So Sezer, his NRL average without goal kicking was 39.6 without goal kicking. So let's just say 40. So he's priced at 33, averaging 40 without the goal kicking. Add 9 points for goal kicking. That's 49 points. Now, do we buy into the stock that he's the main playmaker and the Tigers are on the up? If we give him, say, 5 points, let's say he averages 45 points a game, priced at a 32. That's 13 points. That's more than like I'm predicting for someone like Pierre Cora, who is massively off the charts. So the problem with him is the round 1 bye and the uncertainty with the goal kicking. But I think if he averaged 45 points, I would not be shocked.
Yep.
Now, I know that 45 points is not great, but if you're wanting to have Haas, Grant, Kuraz, Marju, you need to sacrifice somewhere. And if we can get 15 points of value while sacrificing, I think that's great.
And I guess then you look at what can I do with the extra? There's 600,000 roughly on average. So you look at, okay, how can I distribute that 600K across my team to become better in terms of total points than I would have had if I had Cleary? So if you're saying Sezer has 40, let's say 45 points at worst, right? What do we think Cleary averages in the first 5 to 6 rounds? Like maybe 73, I think you said, if we worked off that initial average of the teams that he plays. So we're looking for 35 points of value roughly across that 600K, which is very easy to find. If you're going up from a Taylor May to a Greg Marju, or you're going, from Xavier Savage up to Jermaine Asako or something like that, like I think it's very easy to be able to find those points pretty quickly.
Flegler to a Tino, Pierre Cora to a Murray. Like you compound these things. It's not one play, you do it over a couple. And let's go back to the hooker podcast that we had, Mattrix. We're looking at Harry Grant maybe averaging 70 to a Brendan Hands that's averaging 50. And there's 20 points as well. And there's an extra, motza you can do with it. And what Braino said before is, yeah, it's nice to have team value, but you also need to have points. So look at how you can divvy up those points with the money you've got. And if you can go from a Piacora to a Murray, a Flegler to a Tino, a May to a Marzu, I think you've made your bank back there as well. And you've also, if you're not captaining Cleary, then you don't need him. If that's the way you want to look at it, you don't need to have a guy in there if you're not looking at captaining him, and you can have all these other upside guys.
Yeah. Matty, you're the guy with Aidan Sezer in your team. And I mean, we've spoken a fair bit in the preseason, and you've been really unsure about it in terms of like maybe getting FOMO around Cleary and going, fuck, he's so good.
Yeah.
Like, we know what Cleary can do. But have we sold you on holding Sezer? Because honestly, you've maybe kind of talked me out of holding Cleary.
Honestly,
I don't want to be held responsible when Cleary tons up round one, by the way.
No, it's all on your head.
No. But looking at the stats, like, yeah, I do expect a Payne Haas or a Tino to score that much better than a Cotter. I do expect, like, I was just toying and I had a little bit of money in the bank. Like, I do expect Cam Murray to be that much better than, say, a Piacora. Like, I do expect, having these other guys in my team to make that money, because I think 50 is realistic for Sezer. And I'm not even talking about points. I'm talking about the fact that he could be worth 500K in 6 weeks, and I can move him on. I can move heaven and earth. I can downgrade a gun and just get Cleary in when he's a guy that I want to captain. And yes, it might be planning for a few weeks, but I do a Supercoach podcast. I'm going to be doing the research. I'm going to be doing the planning. I'm not going to get to round 6, have, however many trades I have. How many trades do we get a week? 3? I'm not going to have 2 trades.
2 and then 5 boosts, I think.
I'm not going to boost
7 trades exactly per week.
I'm not going to boost 1 week and like not have any money in the bank the week I want Cleary. It's going to be, banking 100K here. Hey, this guy looks okay. He's 400K. I've got Sean Bloor that's now 500K. Let's start banking some cash, start working my way towards Cleary, because I'm going to be generating the points in some other positions with that money.
Yeah. There's a compelling argument for him. Boys, before we move on to Mitch Moses, and there's another compelling argument for potentially, we've got to give a shout out. The show is brought to you by Ryan from Astute Newstead, from Hammond's Home Finance himself. Interest rates, they keep going up. They've actually held off at the moment, which is fantastic. Thank you to the RBA. But I'm sure everyone's still wondering whether you can afford your own home, whether you can afford the next place you're looking at. You don't have to worry. You can hit Ryan up. Let him know that we sent you. He'll give you a confidential lending assistance, absolutely no obligation. So you just talk to him about your situation. Let him know what you're looking for, and he will do all the legwork for you. He's got access to over 50 lenders as well on panel. So you don't have to negotiate with the big banks or the little ones. He'll do it all for you. So hit him up. The Instagram is Hammond's Home Finance. And if you're an old school person and you love an email, it's ryan@eganwealth.com. Moses,
more personal.
Matty. Yeah, that's it. Exactly right. Mitch Moses, Matty. Now, when we look at the draw, we've talked about the Eels, we've talked about Sean Lane, we've talked about Dillbags, we've talked about these guys that we're like, oh, we like their draw. So does that still apply to Mitch Moses?
I hate Mitch Moses. I got him last year, and then suddenly he rolls through and plays Origin. Like, it just ruined me. But look, 695K, the upside's there. I think we've talked so much about the fact that we want Dillbags in our team, and I don't think you can have both.
What do you think, Josh? I don't like having both the Eels playmakers either. That's probably what's deterring me from this option, personally.
Also, the numbers don't stack up very well, boys. We talk about him having a golden draw. Now, if you look at the first 6 rounds, and that's what I'm looking at, because by round 6 you're pivoting, or by round 7 you're pivoting to Cleary.
Yeah,
he's played 81 games against this top first 6. He has a career average of 55.5. That's not good. So he averages 65 in 19 games against the Bulldogs. He averages 49 across 15 games against Penrith. He averages 53 across 12 games against Manly. Averages 76 across 12 games against the Tigers. So that's the first game where he's above his average. Everything else is below. Averages 39 across 12 games against the Raiders and 51 across 11 games against the Cowboys. So for as much of a flat track bully that he is, I am not expecting the Bulldogs in round 1 to just roll over. If this was the Bulldogs in round 21, yeah, the Dogs might just pack in and give up. But round 1, everyone morale's high. Defense is pretty good in round 1. Like, it's probably the worst attacking week that you're going to have. Penrith in week 2, you never want to play Penrith at all. Manly, yes, you can go hit or miss. They can turn it on defensively sometimes. They can be shocking the others, but 53 average across 12 games. The Tigers, yes, we expect him to do bits against the Tigers in round 4. Nico is on a bye. Cleary still has a shit draw. I haven't looked at what the fullback rotation looks like. So round 4 does look appealing. 39 in 12 games against the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders are going to be very bad defensively. I think they will be very poor attackingly because they have no one apart from Hudson Young. But they don't have much. They haven't lost much in. They haven't lost much in defense. And Ricky is a renowned defensive coach. And the Cowboys, Todd Payton knows how to run a defensive ship. So 55.5 in 81 games. It's a decent sample size. And he's priced at a 68. So it's not great. Not great reading.
I'm not touching him. You don't have to talk me out of it. He's not going anywhere near my team. And look, I understand why, because he's got the goal kicking. Para have a nice draw, blah, blah, blah. He's got 21 in base, which is pretty ordinary for a halfback. I mean, we look at Nico and Nathan Cleary. They've got 27 and 26 in base. So, I mean, 5 points less in base doesn't seem like a big deal. But we know how low Mitch Moses can go. Like, the man just plays limbo on the NRL field for a living, because one day he'll get 7 and the next game he'll go out and get you 100. And that's still an average of 50. So, like, you're going to get the highs and lows with Mitch Moses. One game he'll come out and he'll do fuck all. The next game, everyone will be saying, oh, Mitch Moses, greatest player ever because he got 110 against the Tigers. So I just think it's a complete fade. I think it's a bad move. And what's he own? 8.9, 9% owned. So
I think
definitely
that's too
not
high.
Popular. Yeah, absolutely. We've both admitted that Nico should be 100% owned and he's only at 40. So I guess, that there's a bit of room there.
Parramatta play the Tigers in round 4, which is the best matchup to play him as a captain. Turbo plays the Dragons. The Bunnies play the Dogs. So if you have Latrell, they're thereabouts. And then who else is good? The Knights play the Warriors, so KP could be a little bit affected there. The Sharks play the Raiders. We just said the Raiders defensively are pretty good. But if you are someone like myself, who Tom Trbojevic is not leaving your side regardless, like Tom Trbojevic could come out in crutches and a moon boot and you could tell me his ACL snapped and I'd still start with him. Like, there's not a world where I can captain him. I can captain Moses, and we've already said that Hynes should be 100% owned. So if you are running the Hynes and Cleary, the Hynes and Moses combination, like, to me, this screams VC on Turbo, captaincy on Nico. I can't pay $1 million for Nico and not have some kind of captaincy on him, even though it is the Tigers, Monday, April 1st, 4:00, Combank. The stars aligned there, but he's still on the averages at 76. I just think there's better captaincy options in the only week that really stands out for him.
Yep. Matty, question for you from Matt Granger. A question from Matt to Matt. So this is fitting. How many less points does Moses or SJ get than Cleary and Hynes? So this person potentially fading both. Moses and SJ versus Cleary and Hynes. How many less points over the first 5 or so games before that kind of Hynes-Cleary bye do you think that you're going to miss?
Look, an average between the two of them, 32.5.
Okay. So you're going to miss, you mean per game? Was that what we're talking about?
No,
32
not
points per game?
No, like, I think that there's a world where Cleary and Hynes are getting hundreds and these guys are getting, 65s? Yeah, I do think Moses is good. Like, and I do think that even though he's up and down, you know what, there is a case for him. And I do think SJ is good. I'm just not paying $800K for SJ. And yes, we're scarred by the fact that he was $450K last year. And yes, I might have a punt on him in one of my draft competitions because I love SJ. But yeah, I'd say you're losing at least 30 2 points each per game. So that's 60 between the pair. And you're going to captain one. So that's 90 for that week. Yeah.
And this is a salary cap competition. That's it. That's what we need to remember. You want to pay what's the math? We're paying 700 for Moses. We're paying 800 for SJ. That's 1.78, 15. You're paying 1.5 mil versus 1.8 mil. You're saving 300K on those two.
For two massively inferior options.
100%.
It's not like we're splitting hairs here. It's not like there's maybe 5 points in it. Like, I just had a quick look at SJ and his first 6. He only averages over 70 points against 2 of those teams. That's 71 and 73. So it's not like he has an amazing draw based on his historic performances. I've also been on record to say that I'm not a huge Warriors guy. I want to see it backed up again. Worth noting, though, it's nothing relevant, but SJ's played 18 games against the Titans and averages 92. Like, good sample size, great average. I just had a quick look.
Holy fuck. Yeah, okay. It's just a shame that he is a halfback.
Doesn't play the Titans.
Yeah. No, if Andrew Webster just wanted to slide him to 5'8" this year just to look after us super coaches at the position change, that would be fantastic because
100%.
He could be a shout at 5'8".
That's the thing. Like everything went well for SJ last year. Like, it was perfect for SJ. Can he improve? No. Like, he won't improve on it. He's older, and if anything, like, it just reverts back to where he was at. Like, his averages 68, 53, 43, 78. Like, it was a 35-point increase. And we've said it before in this pod, like, only Garrick and Hynes have backed that up, like, from a massive jump consistently, and they were much younger. I don't know. I'm worried about SJ.
I think we all just want him to do well because it's SJ. We're like all just hanging on to this kind of, I fucking just hope this guy comes out and kills it again. It's just too much of a risk.
It's not
That's
2011
all it is.
anymore.
Yeah, and
Like,
you're going against
SJ.
you're going against Cleary or Hynes to do it. It's just if there was a dual position somewhere and you could fit Cleary or you could fit Hynes at fullback like you could a couple of years ago. Yeah, fucking oath. Go SJ. Go SJ at halfback and have Hynes at fullback. But you're just competing against 2 of the best options. You just can't, which is disappointing.
He's got 350 Supercoach points through desire. Honestly, desire to be better, desire to make the Warriors better. Put that on a bumper sticker because, it's just not going to happen again.
Yeah, unfortunately. Boys, we've got a couple of players that we'll quickly touch on. I know that there is some ownership and some relevance in conversation with these guys. Before we do, though, the show is brought to you also by Bonus Bank, Australia's #1 match betting site. You can go to bonusbank.com.au. Use the code INSIGHT. Get yourself 25% off your first month. Start making some tax-free and some risk-free cash with one of their premium subscriptions. And you can also create a free account and just wander around, check out the website. I know I have, and it's some pretty cool stuff. You learn a fair bit from their tutorials on how to take advantage of those different match betting scenarios. So go and check out Bonus Bank. Boys, we've talked about SJ. We can move on from him. I mean, look, Sam Walker, there's a little bit of love floating around on social media for Sam Walker as a bit of a kind of comeback season. Is there any kind of relevance there, Josh, for you for Sam Walker, or is he more of a draft asset?
We said not 2 episodes ago the Roosters have, if not one of the worst draws. And Sammy Walker is he's not Dylan Brown in the base department, is he? He needs those attacking stats. And as much as all 3 of us rate the Roosters this year, I want to see it before I can pay up for Sammy Walks. So not for me. Definitely in draft. Always an admirer of Sammy Walks in the 4th round of drafts, but no, not for me.
Anything to add, Matty?
Oh, he might be a 500K stepping stone in 4 weeks from Sezer to Walker, trying to get my way back to Cleary or something. But yeah, not for round 1.
Yep.
Keep walking.
What about Jaden Sullivan? Because there was a bit of talk around him. He was actually in my first iteration of my team. Just open the app, kind of have a look and go, oh, he could be all right. But then obviously you change to Sezer pretty quickly when you look at it a bit deeper. But Jaden Sullivan is still in some teams at the moment. Anything to add, Matty? Is there any love there? Much point talking about Sullivan?
Not really. I know we're only going to find out round 2, but would you be surprised if it's Sezer and Fainu instead of Sully anyway?
Oh, I'm really hoping so, Josh. Like, how good would it be to see Latu Fainu line up in round 1?
the future. No, the people that still have Sullivan in their teams must have just bought new phones over the Christmas break and forgot to re-download the app. Like, no, just get Sezer. If you're going to go a Tigers half, if you're going to put yourself through the fucking pain and the misery of having a Tigers half, get the cheaper one that has the goal kicking.
Yeah, I said 3 more. DCE, the guy that everyone fucking buys at some point during the year. He somehow finds his way into people's teams.
Boys, we'll be sitting here round 18 after Origin going, we need a pod. Fuck, DC is 2% owned. Turbo's gone down again. So Turbo's gone down again. We need some Manly cover. Like,
don't put that out into the universe.
No, I can't. I don't want to have too many Manly spines. I just want to have the best one, and that's Turbo. So, yeah, no, nothing. Boys, what are 8.2% of people doing with Luke Brooks? What is going on? Am I just in some kind of bubble? Like, I get it. He's going to be a great signing for Manly from a footy standpoint, but he is priced at a 55. Kieran Foran in Turbo's fucking 144 season average, like 43, 44. Like, come on. Like, what are we doing here?
I think it's hope. You know what it is? It's them going, Luke Brooks needed to leave the Tigers. It was a good fit. He now gets to play alongside. The narrative is he gets to play alongside DCE, Origin halfback. And that's fine.
No,
but they're on the opposite ends of the field.
He doesn't get to play alongside with DCE. He gets to play
on the other side
with DCE's shadow.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's Turbo, it's DCE, and then sure, Luke, you can touch the ball once a set if you want. Like, what are we doing? Like, if he was priced at like a 40, I'd be much more receptive to it, and I'd probably have him at my 5/8. But like, he is priced at 55. That's coming off the back of being the man at the Tigers when we sucked and we just said, fuck it, just do whatever you want.
And come on, man, you've got to do, like, Matty, you've got to do better when you've got Isaiah Papali'i on your hip. Like, the guy's a gun. Isaiah Papali'i is a good player, good second row, good edge back rower. And Luke Brooks then probably, I think his scores regressed at that point when Papali'i went to his side. Like, I'm sure you agree with us on this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole at risk of using every analogy I know.
As much as I love Corey Waddell and Ben Travojevic, they're not they're not Hammer Olakawatu, are they? They're not real game-breaking options.
No, they're not. They're not. But I tell you what, if Burbo's lining up on the left edge, that's going to be a conversation we'll be having in the Centre Wing podcast. So look forward to that one. Over him.
But from if we actually try and analyze, if we try and give some kind of analysis for Luke Brooks, yeah, that too. Like, where the fuck are his points coming from? Like, people are like, oh yeah, but he'll just put Turbo over. Sure, Turbo's going to get more try assists than he gets tries. Like, come on. Like, they've got Garrick in the centers now as well. Like, do you really think Anthony Seibold's sitting there in fucking December being like, oh man, we've signed Luke Brooks. Let's build our offense around Luke Brooks. Like, Brooks averages 43 points this year. Clip that up and make me look like a mug. But like, if everything went fucking well for Luke Brooks, he averages 55. He is at value. Do you really want to be paying $550K for a gamble that you don't lose money?
No, not a chance.
Sorry,
no,
very passionate.
Doesn't make sense.
Very passionate about the anti-Luke Brooks stand. Not because I'm a hater because he left the Tigers. Like, I'm glad to see him gone. I want the best.
You sound like a hater.
Probably a few extra decibels in the voice there when we started talking about Luke Brooks. That's for sure.
I'm just seeing 8.2%.
Let me tell you.
Like, if he was 2% owned, I wouldn't be on this rant. But he is 8.2% owned. Like, what is going on? Come on.
Yeah, that'll change. That'll change when we get closer. That's probably people opening up the app and goes, "Oh, Luke Brooks left Tigers, didn't he? Sweet, I'll throw him in." But that'll change.
Sorry, I'm very heated.
Gonna cool off. Chanel Harris-Tavita. I mean, look, as much as I'd love to talk about him, I don't think that's really worth talking about. Braden Trindle, we know Nico's going to be the guy there still. Like, yeah, Braden Trindle might take the 5th tackle kick option every now and again, or he might get the ball on the left edge a little bit, but we know it's Nico's show. So you're just taking the guy that's going to have the ball once a set, I think.
He's also priced at what he averaged with Nico on the side. Like, if you look at when Trindle and Hynes played together, he is priced bang on. So, not keen.
Matty Burton, I mean, are we buying into the Bulldogs Matt Burton hype that we had last year? And I agree. I'll put my hand up. That was me. I thought Matt Burton was going to have a cracker year last year.
I assume we were all on the Adam Dewey train until he got injured, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had Adam Dewey. Yeah.
Yeah, which is disappointing. But anyway, I'm not looking at Matt Burton. Is there a world where we get what we expected from him last year, Matty? Like, can he be that 65, 70 point scorer?
I think Bulldogs are 2 years away from being 2 years away still. I think we will have a clear heads up when Matty Burton makes the next step, and we can make a move then. But right now, I'm not starting the year with Matty Burton.
Does he even goal kick? That's the big thing. Like, there's no guarantee goal kicks as well. And his value presents itself at 5'8", not halfback.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Absolutely. And we talked about SJ and Tyron Wishart. We probably...
Tyron Wishart, so he's in 5% of teams. What is going on?
Yeah, it's wild.
What is happening?
Wild super coaching going on here.
What is happening?
That the only other two guys, I mean, Jerome Hughes is another guy that we'll probably look at some point in the season when the Storm draw frees up. He always finds his way into teams, a bit like DCE, Jerome Hughes. You went on a Jerome Hughes run, didn't you, last year, Matty?
Yeah. And that was through Origin due to his accent. He becomes serviceable through that period. I'm not actually sure if last year was the year I went Jerome Hughes, because I think I went Mitchell Moses, just thinking not in a million years he'd get picked for Origin because there's still Nico Hynes. So yeah, I'm not sure if last year was the year, but every year I seem to get Jerome Hughes around that Origin period. So.
Yep. And are people that play fantasy, Josh, also just making a Supercoach team and throwing Jamal Fogarty in there?
Yeah, no, Fog is definitely a fantasy player, not a Supercoach player. Also, I was just doing a little bit of thinking on Jerome Hughes. I've played Supercoach since 2015. I've never owned Jerome Hughes. Not once. Ever. Never. He's never been in my side. And Manu was the same until like last year when he got 5'8" dual, I'm pretty sure as well. So in saying that though, like Hughes, there is an option. We spoke about Pappenhausen being that perfect round 8 trade-in when their draw like drastically opens up. From round 9, I think it is here, they have the Titans and then a bunch of other scrubs on the NRL app, so it's a little bit slow. But yeah, for round 9, their draw opens up dramatically, which is a nice time to downgrade before Origin if you did want to play a head-to-head route and you were looking to picking up some cheap wins over the Origin period. But Hughes, I'm not keen on. Fogarty, definitely not from a Supercoach standpoint. Supercoach is all about attack and making tries happen, and fantasy is just about, hey, can he kick for 800 meters a game? Because that's sweet.
I think, is it the Jack Whiten's left now? Fogarty's the only guy that can really do anything on this team. I actually think that Raiders, I'm sorry, Brent, I think the Raiders are actually going to be a bottom 4 team this year. So I'm very concerned that there just won't be any attack for anyone.
No, and it's a case of like, now that there is not much presenting itself, the talk is that Jaden Campbell is still not training with the first team, and we're nearly a month away from the season, and Sini is lighting it up at fullback, and they have a bye in round 2. I don't think we see Campbell until round 3, which then makes KO Weeks even more essential. And then do you really want to be having fucking Jamal Fogarty and KO Weeks in your side? Like, it's just
and
like,
Ethan
and
Strange,
you're going to have Ethan Strange
Savage.
and probably Savage and maybe the other center getting around, Chevy Stewart. Like, do you really want to have all these, like, and Danny Levi, of course, like a staple, and Hudson Young, of course. Like, we're just going to have like 12 Raiders in our side.
I love how you bought into the Hudson Young agenda as well. It was
welcome. You're welcome.
I think I have to. I think it's just mandatory. Like, I tried to fight it for as long as I could, but it's just ingrained in me.
Just embrace it.
Forever young.
We've heard that once too many. Boys, I mean, look, we've managed to do 55 minutes, to be fair, in a podcast where there's 2 clear options. So we've done all right.
Really, that's 50 minutes. That's 50 minutes too long, really.
50 minutes of dribble, to be fair. But there'll be a fair bit more to talk about in the 5'8" pod that'll be coming up next. There's I don't really love 5'8" either, but fuck, I tell you what, center wing's going to be a very
I
long
honestly think we could have pumped out halfback and 5'8" in about 20 minutes. But center wing, we'll make up for it in center wing, because that's going to be probably longer than 2 RF.
It will be.
It might be an audio book.
I was going to say, it's no Den and Kemp 7-hour season review, but it'll get close. Because I will make sure that I bring up all my videos and posts I had of Greg Marzu last year about how he was the guy. And then everyone laughed at me when he wasn't named round 1 because he had like a foot issue or some shit. And I didn't buy into the hype either. But yeah, Greg Marju will feature heavily. Man love.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure. As well, Hamiso Tabuai Fido, I'm sure, because I've seen Matty's team, and there'll be a lot of that going on, I think. But we're not talking centre wings now. We'll wrap this one up, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, like, review, do all those things for us. We would appreciate the love. Join the Discord as well. Plenty of good chat happening in there. You can also become an Insight Unlimited member. It'll only cost you about $25 for the whole year. You get access to all the different sports in the Discord, as well as access to our thoughts, draft rankings, and a ton of other cool stuff across NBA, BBL, NBL, and AFL as well. So jump in there and guys, get involved in the Insight Supercoach World Cup. I'm actually really excited about that one because we're going to be able to see who the best supercoacher is in the world. And
I don't have many good ideas, but when they do come through, they're generally okay. So it's a wide hit rate. It's a wide net we cast.
This one has delivered for sure. So get involved in that. Jump in the Discord, or if you have questions about the World Cup itself, just hop in our DMs and we'll give you direction on where to go. That'll do, guys. Thanks for joining us. It's been another episode of the Insight NRL show. We'll see you next episode for the 5/8. Catch you later.
Cheerio.